some indications point to being haunted, but we didn't get anything.
But we also report all of this back to the homeowner, regardless of what our findings are. We give every bit of evidence that we have, like, we recorded this spike in this room. The homeowner may not know what that means, but
they may not care what that means.
We give them everything, and this way, if another team wants to come in and check the same place, they can follow up on those very same readings. They can follow up on the same stuff if they know what they're doing. So anybody can try and repeat what we just did. That's part of the science side.
Well, one of the questions that popped up could be addressed to both parties, if you will, in this. And how do you know who is a fake and who isn't? Who's a real, honest psychic? Who is a real, honest investigator of these types of spiritual activities? How do you know that? How do you distinguish that?
Well, unfortunately, there are those out there on both sides, on the investigative side, on the psychic side, who are scammers. I just had a customer to call me yesterday during her reading, and she said, a couple days ago I went by a palm reader, and I had some questions, and so I went to see her, and she immediately began to tell me that my family name was cursed, and that nothing good was ever going to happen in my life, and the reason I'm having all of this bad luck is because of this curse. And for $100, she'll take this money and she'll go to her church, tape this $100 onto a candle, and then, take care of it. Make this curse go away. And she says, Belle, I felt like I was being scammed. And my response to her was, well, guess what? You were. And I've had other customers that have had, that have been milked out of thousands of dollars.
And I think the way to tell, at least in my opinion, is details. If you have a psychic who is legitimate, she won't just say, oh, you're cursed, your house is haunted by an evil spirit. When Belle does a reading at a house that we're investigating, she gives details. And, it may not be specific details like this is a social security number or exact age, but she will give details where if
from
somebody
that period.
if somebody who knew that spirit, would be able to identify them. Or paranormal investigators, they'll give you reports.
Too many investigators, and quite too often we've come across a client will call us up and say, we need you to come in here. We had this other group in here. They came, they stormed around, they did what they wanted to do, and I haven't heard back from them. And it's been so many X months, so many years since this team was in here. It's like when they showed up, they only had cameras, or when they showed up, they were just like taking photos and voice recording. And the definitive line for investigators is there's a lot of amateurs that are trying to start out, but at the same time, they have to know when they're out of their league, out of their element. They need to step in and go, okay, this person needs to be professional. Like, you need to know what you're doing. You need to know what to look for. You can't just come in and go snapping photos all over some poor person's house.
We give people videotapes of everything that we do. Our entire investigation from start to finish is videotaped for documentation purposes, not even to find anything paranormal. And we give the homeowners that tape. Anything, most of the pictures we find, we try and give them the highlights. But, we give them all the photos. We give them detailed reports, psychic reports, anything, any kind of report that we can give them, any kind of documentation, we give them. Because if they decide they're unhappy with us, we want them to be able to give the report to somebody else and say, this is what was found, and then they can go from there. And I think if somebody is sitting there and giving you all these little vague snippets of something or other, that's the most likely indicator that they're not legitimate.
Well, you would agree that people have been known to pick on people's fear to try to better their own feather their own nest, so to speak.
Right. And the bottom
that type
line,
of thing going on in your biz?
Yes.
It happens everywhere.
With investigators, it's found out it's not so much them trying to fleece anybody for money, so much as just causing general havoc for like a family or a business. They'll come in and they really don't know what they're doing, and they'll just cause havoc. And they take up this person's time, and they're like, oh, we did all this. And then the worst one was one of the cases we actually had to follow up on, because instead of actually reporting back to the client, they reported to actually Sherry in this case. They told Sherry about all of their findings, but not the homeowner.
Oh, my.
Well, not good.
No.
So the bottom line basically is trust your own instincts. If you walk away from a psychic reading or an investigation and you feel good about what was shared to you, you had a lot of stuff validated for you, or that psychic was able to give you information that only you knew, you know, then you can feel comfortable knowing that, you know what, I've gotten somebody legitimate.
Or go by reputation. You know, if a lot of people
Referrals.
think highly of one person, then they're thought highly of for a reason.
Well, we have several calls on hold, and we have more questions here, and we're running close to being out of time. I'm not sure we can get another call. Let's try. If you had a question for us, go right ahead, please.
This question is for Reverend Belle.
Okay.
I am wondering, you know, we've all heard the stories of spirit that supposedly push people downstairs or scratch them. And the one that brings that to mind is the story the Shadow Chasers told about the white blob or something that was pretty scary. Belle, do you feel like these spirits can actually harm you?
It's impossible. You know, I see programs on TV and such where they depict the fact that the spirit pushed them, the spirit bit them, the spirit scratched them. They're spirit. They're not physical entities. So it's literally impossible to be able to be scratched or whatever. However, your mind is a powerful thing. You are able to make use of what's known as psychic kinetic energy, which you can create these things happening to your body. You can fear so much that I'm going to get bitten that you're actually going to start seeing teeth marks on your arm, or you're going to get bit on the butt. You know, it's because you're kind of willing that with your own mind's energy. But spirit is spirit. There's nothing physical to them. They can't touch you. They can't push you. Now, in Phil's case, he wasn't being pushed. He was just being taunted. This circle, or as you called it at the time, a piece of jelly that started coming after him, you know, was only taunting him. It didn't push him. It didn't hit him in any physical way.
I think at the time he was more at risk of
was
hurting
spooked.
himself.
He was
than
spooked.
ghost orting him.
I've been there myself. We've run out of time again. It's impossible to believe that to be true, but we have. I want to encourage you, if you like this type of stuff, you want to learn more, hop on one of these bus tours coming up. Get your reservations in, get them done. Join us on October 4th when we'll do a documentary, a follow-up. You'll see some information on the screen. And I want to thank our guests for being here. It was an exciting evening, as always, when you guys come on board. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Yes, thank you for having us.
And that's our program for tonight. A reminder, our next program will be at 8 p.m. on October 14th. We'll have as our guest representatives from the Northern Regional Center for Independent Living, and VESID, which is the Office of Vocational and Educational Services for Individuals with Disabilities. And we'll be discussing, advocating for, and working with persons with disabilities. Then on the 18th of November, we'll be doing a program which I hope you will all want to be here about. It's going to be talking about healthcare reform and the impact it will have on all of us. So join us for that. That's our program for tonight. WPBS Live, thanks you very much for being a part of our life, and we hope you've enjoyed our show. Have a good night.
Harmonic opens the new season with new music director Alan Gilbert conducting a new work, and the wonderful Renee Fleming singing